Hey everyone, before we dive in, here's something really cool. You're listening to an episode created almost entirely by AI. From the script to the voice, this is part of the AI Takeover series by Blockchain DXB, where we explore what's possible when humans hand over the mic to machines. There's little to no human involvement, and that's what makes this episode so powerful. Welcome to the future of content creation. Let's get into it. This episode is powered by Amana, the region's first and fastest growing regulated all-in-one trading and investing app. Whether you're looking to invest in US stocks like Apple or Tesla, or MENA giants like Adinoc or Salik, Amana puts the financial market at your fingertips. You also get access to gold, foreign exchange, ETFs, futures, and commodities. With over 375 assets to choose from, they've got the largest crypto selection in the region. And listen, guys, if you want to build long-term wealth without thinking about it every day and want to automate your investing, just set your monthly budget, choose your preferred categories, and let Amana do the rest. No fees, no lockups, and 100% customizable. Even better, funding your account is frictionless, and funding your account is easier than ever. You can fund your account with Apple Pay, Google Pay, credit cards, instant bank deposits, and even your crypto wallet. No friction, no hassle. And if you get stuck, Amana offers 24/6 real human customer support and personalized sales assistance. Because you're part of the Blockchain DXB community, you get an exclusive offer. Register with the code BlockchainDXB and make at least one trade to receive a $100 trading bonus credited to your account the following month. So what are you waiting for? Download the Amana app now. The link and code are in the show notes. Next up, Blockchain DXB is proud to be the official media partner for one of the biggest blockchain events of the year, the Blockchain Futurist Conference. For the first time ever, North America's leading crypto event is heading to the United States, taking place at the iconic Guitar Hotel at Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida. Alongside it is ETH Women, happening simultaneously. Expect multi-stage panels, NFT galleries, DeFi showcases, tech demos, metaverse experiences, and more, all under one roof. It's where the smartest minds in blockchain, crypto, and AI will converge. Get 25% off tickets by using the code DXB25. And yes, I'll be there with exclusive live coverage, behind-the-scenes interviews, and spotlight features on groundbreaking projects. Mark your calendars, November 5th and 6th, 2025. Visit futuristconference.com and use code DXB25. Link is in the show notes. Next up, Blockchain DXB has two more interesting partnership news to announce. First up, with Future Blockchain Summit and Fintech Surge 2025. Blockchain DXB is an official media partner of Future Blockchain Summit and Fintech Surge 2025. Future Blockchain Summit is one of the biggest and oldest blockchain summit taking place in Dubai, going back to almost a decade, 2017 to be precise. The event takes place between October 12th to 15th at Dubai Harbour. This is where blockchain meets fintech to redefine the future of finance. 250 plus world-class speakers, 1,200 plus investors, live demos, product launches, and the exclusive invite-only GITEX Digital Assets Forum, all under one roof. From Web3 pioneers to fintech leaders shaping payments, banking, insurtech, AI, and DeFi, this event brings the entire ecosystem together. Startups, this is your launchpad. Get in front of top VCs, accelerators, and industry leaders. For blockchain and fintech companies, this is where connections turn into partnerships and dreams turn into exits. Register today at futureblockchainsummit.com. Don't just watch the future unfold, own your space in it. Remember, Future Blockchain Summit and Fintech Surge 2025. The registration link is in the show notes below, and see you at Dubai Harbour. Second partnership news kicking off from today is with the leading Bitcoin event organizers on this planet. And this year, Bitcoin Asia is taking things to another level. Bitcoin Asia are hosting a massive gathering this August in Hong Kong, and Blockchain DXB is proud to be an official media partner of Bitcoin Asia 2025. Taking place this August in Hong Kong, Bitcoin Asia is the region's premier Bitcoin gathering, where builders, investors, and innovators meet. It's really an honor for Blockchain DXB to be associated with Bitcoin Asia. Now at this event, expect powerful keynotes, bold conversations, and a headlining session with none other than Eric Trump. He will be sharing his vision for Bitcoin's long-term potential, its role in global finance, and Asia's massive impact on adoption, and a lot more. So listen up, guys. From infrastructure to regulation, privacy tools to lightning development, Bitcoin Asia connects global Bitcoin communities and drives innovation across cultures and markets. And as part of this partnership, you can register for the Bitcoin Asia using the code DXB. All the details are in the show notes below. If Bitcoin's in your blood, this is your event. So, register today at asia.btc and don't forget to use code DXB for 10% off your tickets. Bitcoin Asia 2025, Hong Kong is calling. Be part of the future of Bitcoin. Next up, Advanced Media is the largest distributor of professional video, photography, cinema, and broadcast accessories in the Middle East. They represent over 100 major brands, including DJI, Hasselblad, Red, and Rode. The mic I'm using to record this? Sponsored by Advanced Media. But what really sets them apart is their commitment to purpose. People, planet, and prosperity. That's not just branding, it's their actual business model. They've partnered with SAE Institute in Dubai to offer scholarships to students pursuing a bachelor's degree in filmmaking, each worth AED 50,000. They also run regular workshops, training programs, and tech showcases across the region. For more info, visit amt.t, that's amt.tv. Finally, let's talk about something every crypto investor should take seriously: security. And that's where Ledger comes in. Ledger is one of the most trusted names in crypto security. Their hardware wallets, like the Nano S Plus and Nano X, keep your assets safe by storing your private keys offline. That means you're protected against hacks, malware, and phishing attempts that can compromise online wallets. The company is headquartered in Paris and is constantly innovating. Their team works with world-class security researchers and regularly tests their own products for vulnerabilities. It's why Ledger wallets are used by millions around the world. Using a hardware wallet isn't just smart, it's essential. If you're serious about crypto, it's time to stop relying on centralized exchanges or browser wallets. Click the link in the show notes to order your Ledger wallet and support this podcast at the same time.
Right now, there are these massive industrial warehouses that were originally built to mine Bitcoin, and they are quietly being hijacked.
Yeah. Literally gutted and replaced.
Exactly. The servers, the massive cooling fans, the actual physical real estate's all being ripped out and rewired. And, the entity orchestrating this hostile takeover isn't some rival crypto mining corporation. It's artificial intelligence.
Which is just a staggering physical pivot to witness in real time.
It really is. We are looking at this environment where intense economic pressure is just forcing a massive infrastructure shift across the globe.
So today is Tuesday, March 31st, 2026, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We are jumping into a really heavy stack of sources today that honestly map out a moment of profound technological whiplash.
Whiplash is the perfect word for it. I mean, we've got grim market reports, high-stakes geopolitical deadlines, right, proposed U.S. legislation, and these sweeping enterprise tech announcements coming out of the Middle East. And our mission for you on this deep dive is to unpack how all of these seemingly disconnected events are actually pulling on the exact same thread.
Because the underlying current connecting all of this is it's a desperate scramble for foundational infrastructure. We're really observing a system undergoing a forced mutation.
Yeah.
When you look at the raw materials required to power the digital economy, specifically computing power and the regulations that govern it, you start to realize that a geopolitical negotiation happening right now in the Middle East connects directly to those server farms swapping out their hardware.
Which then directly triggers the legislation being drafted in the halls of Congress.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand why servers are changing hands, or why laws are being written in the first place, you have to understand the overarching shadow that's currently paralyzing the markets.
Right. Capital doesn't just freeze up for no reason. Exactly. People stop making bold moves and retreat to the sidelines when they're, waiting for a shoe to drop.
And the data points to a very specific geopolitical shadow right now. The market stagnation across digital assets is heavily attributed by analysts to the uncertainty surrounding this ongoing, highly sensitive international negotiation. The sources refer to it as Operation Epic Fury.
Operation Epic Fury. It sounds like a movie title, but it's very real.
Very real. And the crucial detail here is the timeline. There is a firm impending deadline of April 6, 2026, set by U.S. President Donald Trump.
And the sources detail the key players involved in these negotiations, which include the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Iran's foreign ministry, and Jared Kushner.
Right.
Now, when you have international players of that sheer magnitude sitting at a table with an April 6th deadline looming, you are inherently dealing with, regional stability, energy corridors, global trade flows.
It injects this massive unknown into the entire macroeconomic landscape.
And you can literally see that anxiety bleeding into the metrics. Right now, the market sentiment, the widely tracked fear and greed index, is sitting at a 26.
Yeah, which is deep into fear territory.
I mean, fear fundamentally alters the math of the market, and the current math is just undeniably brutal. I'm looking at the numbers here. And the global crypto market cap is sitting at $2.39 trillion.
With Bitcoin hovering around $66,841.
Right, down nearly 6% over just the last 7 days.
But, the spot price alone doesn't really tell the full story of the market's dread here. We have to look at the trapped capital. According to the on-chain data in our sources, roughly 9 million Bitcoin are currently being held at a loss.
9 million. That is nearly 45 to 46% of the entire circulating supply in existence.
Yeah, almost half the supply. It creates a massive psychological ceiling on the market. Those 9 million coins were moved on-chain at prices higher than that current $66,000 level.
Wow.
But the critical nuance hidden in this data is who actually owns those underwater assets. Out of those 9 million, 4.6 million belong to long-term holders.
Oh, wow. So the people who traditionally never sell.
Exactly. This creates the absolute worst loss profile for this specific, historically stubborn cohort since 2023.
I want to break down the mechanics of why that matters so much for you listening, because if you or I buy a digital asset or like a traditional tech stock and the macro environment tanks, you just hold it.
Right, you sit on your hands.
Yeah, you wait for it to recover. It might be incredibly stressful to look at your portfolio, but it doesn't actively cost you capital to just wait. But for the people maintaining the network, the miners, it's an entirely different reality.
It's a completely different game for them.
They aren't just holding a digital asset in a wallet, they are running heavy industry.
And that distinction is the engine driving this entire infrastructural pivot we're talking about. I mean, a mining operation is a massive industrial facility with fixed overhead. They're leasing land, purchasing highly specialized hardware, employing technicians.
And most importantly, consuming astronomical amounts of electricity.
Exactly. The core mechanism driving today's whiplash is the raw cost of production. The data indicates it currently costs roughly $80,000 to mine one single Bitcoin.
While the asset they are producing is only worth $66,800. That means for every single mathematical block they solve, they are bleeding thousands of dollars.
The core math of their business model is entirely broken right now.
It forces a brutal economic reality. Now, I should mention the sources do note that this equation is slightly more forgiving in certain geographic pockets.
Right, like Kazakhstan or Iran.
Yeah, places where energy is heavily subsidized or naturally abundant so they can push their production costs down. But for the vast majority of major operations, particularly those in regions with standard industrial energy rates, they are operating at a bleeding deficit.
And you just cannot simply endure a deficit of that scale indefinitely. Which leads directly to the wild consequence we touched on at the start of the deep dive.
The hijack.
Yes. These facility operators aren't just powering down their machines, locking the doors, and waiting for that April 6th geopolitical deadline to pass. They are executing a complete structural pivot.
They are actively retooling their factories to become artificial intelligence compute providers.
Right. Transitioning from processing cryptographic hashes to providing the raw data processing power required by tech companies to train massive AI models.
And somewhat ironically, the sources note they are actually liquidating their remaining Bitcoin reserves to fund the immense capital cost of this hardware transition.
It's pure survival. To understand the why behind this pivot, you really have to look at the fundamental difference in the underlying business models.
Break that down for us.
Sure. So Bitcoin mining is effectively a probabilistic lottery based on cryptographic puzzles. You have to spend vast amounts of energy, and if your machines win the mathematical race against the rest of the global network, you receive a block reward.
But you are paid in an asset with a highly volatile price.
Exactly. Your revenue fluctuates wildly, while your electricity bill remains completely rigid. Whereas AI compute provision is a service business.
Right, it's a totally different revenue architecture.
By retooling for AI, these facilities secure stable, predictable, long-term leasing contracts. They are renting out their computing power to tech companies who need to train algorithms. That revenue stream is flat, reliable, and entirely decoupled from the day-to-day anxiety of the crypto market's fear and greed index.
So play this out for me. Because if I own a massive factory that historically produces luxury cars,
Yeah.
right, and a global recession hits, so nobody is buying cars, and I make the incredibly expensive decision to retool my entire assembly line to rent my robots out to a tech giant to build server racks, do I ever go back to making cars?
That's a great question.
Is this physical hijacking of crypto infrastructure by AI a permanent paradigm shift?
Well, the industry analysis actually suggests this is highly likely a temporary survival strategy.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Just temporary.
Yeah, dictated by the specific mechanics of the crypto market cycle. The current squeeze is intimately tied to the 2024 halving cycle.
Ah, the halving.
Right. The pre-programmed event that slashes the Bitcoin block reward in half, which instantly doubles the effective cost of production for miners. Historically, this event brutally squeezes operators until the spot price eventually catches up to the new reality.
And the sources point out that these operators have seen the top of the mountain, you know? Bitcoin hit an all-time high back in October 2025, roughly 18 months post-halving.
They know the margin exists if they can just survive the valley. Furthermore, the AI compute landscape is about to become overwhelmingly hostile to small players.
How so?
Because as the competition intensifies, we're talking about trillion-dollar tech behemoths pouring bottomless capital into designing custom AI silicon.
Oh, right. Google, Microsoft, Meta.
Exactly. These repurposed crypto miners will inevitably find themselves outgunned in terms of efficiency and scale. So the expectation outlined in our sources is that if or when Bitcoin prices recover to outpace that $80,000 production cost, these operations will rip the AI servers back out and switch their infrastructure back to crypto mining.
Wow. And the timeline for that reversal is projected at about 6 months.
Just 6 months.
But if the physical infrastructure of crypto, these massive power-hungry warehouses, is currently under such severe economic stress that they are temporarily defecting to the AI camp just to keep the lights on, how is the United States government reacting?
They're definitely paying attention.
Because compute power, whether it is securing a global financial ledger or training a next-generation AI model, is effectively national security infrastructure at this point.
And the legislative response is highly targeted toward exactly that realization.
Yeah.
This brings us to a specific piece of proposed legislation highlighted in our sources, the Mind in America Act.
Right. This act is being spearheaded by Republican Senators Bill Cassidy and Cynthia Lummis. And the design of it is fascinating because it doesn't just, throw broad subsidies at the problem.
No, it's much more surgical.
It is engineered to aggressively secure this compute infrastructure domestically.
The act establishes a voluntary certification framework for U.S.-based mining operations. The stated operational goal is to sharply reduce the industry's reliance on foreign hardware.
Specifically targeting the supply chains originating in China, right?
Yes, which currently dominate the manufacturing of these highly specialized processing chips. The legislation aims to bolster the domestic manufacturing of these critical components, so the physical backbone of the network isn't dependent on geopolitical rivals.
What stands out when you dig into the mechanics of the act is how it navigates the usual legislative bottlenecks. To incentivize this massive reshoring of hardware, it utilizes existing federal energy programs.
It taps into mechanisms like grid balancing incentives and energy efficiency tax credits to aid miners in this transition.
Right, which means it bypasses the need for a new, massive federal spending bill. And as anyone following politics knows, a new spending bill is always a massive hurdle in Congress. It uses the tools already on the workbench.
It is a highly pragmatic legislative strategy. And the sources explicitly note that this proposed act directly aligns with President Trump's broader stated plan for a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
But introducing a pragmatic piece of legislation is very different from actually getting it passed into law.
Very true.
To ensure concepts like the Mind in America Act become reality, the industry can't just cross its fingers and hope lawmakers grasp the nuances of decentralized compute networks. They have to build the political machinery to advocate for it.
And we are seeing a massive, coordinated mobilization of political capital to do exactly that. The sources detail the engine driving this. It's called the Blockchain Leadership Fund, or BLF.
The BLF.
Yeah. This is a formidable political action committee backed by major institutional players in the space, specifically noting Anchorage Digital and Chainlink Labs.
Their operational mandate isn't just focused on the top of the ticket either. The BLF is structured to influence federal, state, and local midterm elections.
Because when you are building out physical infrastructure, a local county zoning law for data center noise or a state-level energy grid regulation is just as critical to your survival as a federal tax policy.
Exactly. Their goal is to secure clear, innovation-friendly regulations across every layer of government.
To understand the BLF strategy, we really have to look objectively at the political landscape they're navigating, as outlined by the industry sources. The reports assert that, historically, Republicans have been viewed by the industry as advocates for this technological space.
While noting that Democrats have contained massive detractors of the technology.
Right, that's the historical dynamic according to the reports. So the PAYP is essentially a war chest designed to support candidates who conceptually align with integrating this new infrastructure, responding directly to that dynamic.
And when you look at the current policy landscape, you can see the tangible results of an industry aggressively shaping its own regulatory environment. The sources provide a comprehensive, mechanical breakdown of the concrete policy shifts implemented under the Trump administration.
It is a staggering amount of regulatory restructuring designed to solidify the space. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the restructuring began at the executive level with an order in January 2025.
Right.
This set the foundation for the establishment of the Strategic Reserve or stockpile we mentioned earlier in relation to the Mind in America Act. The crucial operational shift here is that the government is now mandated to hold on to seized digital assets like those recovered from illicit marketplaces, rather than auctioning them off to the public.
Effectively removing that sell pressure from the market and treating the asset as a strategic national reserve.
Precisely. They also push for lighter regulatory enforcement across the board, specifically targeting banking access for these companies.
This is massive because banking access has historically been the ultimate choke point.
Oh, absolutely.
If a digital asset company is completely compliant, doing everything right, but cannot secure a traditional bank account to pay its utility bills, lease its servers, or pay its employees in standard US dollars, it fundamentally cannot operate.
Building on that integration with traditional finance, the administration also introduced the Genius Act. This policy focuses heavily on stablecoins. The mechanical goal here is to legitimize and promote USD-backed stablecoins globally.
When you break down what a USD-backed stablecoin actually is, a digital token pegged one-to-one with the US dollar promoting them globally is essentially a mechanism to export the US dollar to every single smartphone on Earth.
Regardless of the user's local banking infrastructure.
Yeah, it digitizes the dollar's dominance.
It projects financial influence through decentralized rails. Furthermore, the administration has proposed allowing cryptocurrency integrations into 401k retirement accounts, which broadens retail exposure significantly.
And they appointed David Sachs as the official crypto czar to centralize and oversee these policy rollouts.
Right. They have also explicitly opposed the creation of a U.S. central bank digital currency, or CBDC, arguing against the centralized surveillance risks such a system could entail.
And operationally, they have gone so far as to disband certain aggressive regulatory enforcement teams that previously policed the sector. So from a purely operational standpoint, setting aside any political leaning, we are witnessing a masterclass here.
A masterclass in what?
In an industry flexing its lobbying muscles to literally reshape its own regulatory environment in real time. They are building a defensive fortress around the hardware and the capital.
But defending the hardware stateside and securing favorable tax policies doesn't matter if the actual utility of the software is fundamentally broken.
Exactly. This is where we have to pivot our focus from the macro level, the geopolitics, the server farms, the halls of Congress, and look at the reality of the everyday user, you, the listener, trying to actually utilize this technology.
Because according to the data, the user experience is in a state of absolute crisis.
It's bad.
The numbers coming out of the decentralized finance sector, or DeFi, present a stark contradiction to the industry's foundational ethos.
The original promise of this technology was the elimination of the middleman.
Right. The vision was peer-to-peer commerce on decentralized exchanges, or DAX, completely bypassing centralized banking entities. Yet, the 24-hour volume across the entire DeFi ecosystem is sitting below $5 billion. It's a $4.56 billion.
To put that in perspective, traditional financial markets move trillions, and the total fees generated by these decentralized protocols, which is how they incentivize liquidity providers, are a mere $47.39 million.
And the total value locked, the TVL, which represents the actual capital users are willing to leave sitting inside these smart contracts, has bled all the way down to $93.36 billion.
It's a fraction of what it used to be.
Yeah.
But the most alarming metric, really, is the market dominance. DX dominance is only 13.68%.
Yeah, that is incredibly low.
That means over 86% of all trading volume is still flowing through centralized exchanges, or CEXs, entities like Binance. The market is overwhelmingly choosing centralized corporate platforms over decentralized protocols.
And I can tell you exactly why that is happening. It comes down to the mechanics of user friction.
Explain that.
Well, using a decentralized exchange requires you to manage your own cryptographic keys. You're dealing with complex wallet integrations, you have to manually approve smart contract permissions, you pay wildly fluctuating gas fees just to execute a single trade.
And you suffer from slippage, right? Where the price of the asset actually changes between the time you click buy and the time the network finally confirms the transaction.
Exactly. Plus, if you make a typo or click a malicious link, your money is gone instantly, and there is no customer service hotline to call to reverse it.
My analogy for this is using a DX right now is like assembling IKEA furniture blindly in the dark, whereas centralized exchanges are like a white glove delivery service.
I agree completely. The decentralized user experience is actively hostile to mainstream adoption. Centralized exchanges, conversely, offer an experience virtually identical to modern consumer banking or stock trading apps like Robinhood.
They provide seamless onboarding through standard email and password creation. They offer vastly superior user interfaces.
Because they pool user funds centrally, they possess incredibly deep liquidity, meaning users get exact prices without that slippage we mentioned. Furthermore, they aggressively incentivize users with proprietary token rewards.
And you can see this reflected in the valuations. The sources list the top decentralized exchanges. Uniswap is moving $1.3 billion in volume, PancakeSwap $784 million, Aerodrome $296 million, Orca $226 million, Humidify $223 million.
Which are respectable numbers in a vacuum.
Right, in a vacuum. But then you compare the market capitalization of the native tokens of the centralized exchanges. Binance's BNB token has a market cap of $83.42 billion. White Bitcoin is at $10.99 billion. LEO is at $8.93 billion.
The market is voting with its liquidity, and it is overwhelmingly voting for convenience over decentralization.
This presents a massive philosophical and practical hurdle for the industry. Because if digital assets are going to achieve true global mainstream adoption as an actual medium of exchange, the underlying blockchain technology has to become entirely invisible to the end user.
The consumer shouldn't need to know they are interacting with a decentralized ledger, just like they don't need to understand TCP/IP routing protocols to send a simple email.
Exactly. And that void in the market, the desperate need to make the blockchain invisible, is exactly what Jack Dorsey and his company, Square, are attempting to solve.
Which is a massive infrastructural development. They are focusing entirely on the millions of small businesses currently running their point-of-sale systems.
Square is rolling out an auto BTC payment feature for millions of U.S. businesses. And the pivotal detail of this rollout is that it requires absolutely zero technical setup or behavioral change from the merchant.
Not at all.
Walk through the mechanics of this, because it sounds like a magic trick to someone used to the friction of DeFi. How does a local coffee shop accept a highly volatile asset like Bitcoin without actually holding it or risking their daily profit margin?
The mechanism is a seamless, real-time conversion layer sitting between the customer and the merchant. The customer walks in, orders a coffee, and chooses to pay in Bitcoin from their mobile wallet.
Okay.
The moment the transaction is initiated, third-party processors integrated into Square's backend instantly convert that exact amount of Bitcoin into US dollars at the current spot price.
So the merchant never even touches the cryptocurrency?
Never. They simply receive standard fiat currency deposited directly into their bank account.
Right.
It completely eliminates the volatility risk for the small business owner.
If they price a coffee at $4, they get $4.
Exactly. They don't have to worry if geopolitical anxiety from Operation Epic Fury drops the price of Bitcoin by 10%, between the time they close the register and the time they do their accounting.
It transfers the complexity and the risk away from the end user to the specialized infrastructure providers.
Yes.
Okay, I have to push back here. Because whenever a system promises frictionless magic, there are always hidden costs. What are the actual structural risks of running millions of daily retail transactions through this real-time conversion layer?
It's a fair question. The vulnerabilities shift from price volatility to infrastructural and regulatory bottlenecks. First, the entire system relies on the technical stability of those third-party processors.
Like the APIs.
If the conversion API glitches during a period of massive market volatility, the conversion fails, and someone, either the customer, the merchant, or Square, is left holding the bag for the price discrepancy.
Ouch.
Okay, what else? Second, there are severe regulatory risks. If a new rule suddenly mandates that every single real-time crypto-to-fiat conversion is a taxable event requiring complex KYC know your customer reporting right at the point of sale, the friction instantly returns.
And a system grinds to a halt.
Exactly. Finally, by funneling massive amounts of liquidity through these centralized conversion points, you create highly lucrative targets for security breaches and theft.
Wow. And whenever you mention Jack Dorsey, Square, and retail payments, you invariably have to discuss the Lightning Network, because Dorsey has historically been one of its most vocal champions.
Yes, the Lightning Network was conceptually designed to be the ultimate decentralized solution to exactly this friction problem.
Let's explain why the Lightning Network is even necessary in the first place. The main Bitcoin blockchain is fundamentally designed like a giant, incredibly secure, but very slow vault.
That's a good way to put it.
Every single time you want to open that vault to put a penny in, it requires vast amounts of global computing power, costs you a significant security fee, and takes roughly 10 minutes to settle. You cannot buy a cup of coffee that way.
No, the line at Starbucks would be out the door and down the street.
Right. So Lightning is a layer 2 solution. Think of it like opening a tab at a bar. You and the bartender lock a certain amount of money into a payment channel. Once that channel is open, you can buy 50 coffees over the course of a month, instantly, with near zero fees, by simply updating the private ledger between the two of you.
And only when you finally close out the tab at the end of the month does the final tally get settled and recorded on the slow, secure main blockchain.
Exactly. Architecturally, it is brilliant. It enables the microtransactions that the main chain cannot support buying that coffee, tipping a digital creator a fraction of a cent per minute of streaming video, or facilitating instant micro-bets in online gaming ecosystems.
It sounds perfect on paper, but the sources we are looking at offer a highly grounded, almost cynical critique of its actual performance.
Yeah, the data is not pretty.
The Lightning Network has been around for nearly a decade. Yet despite the elegant bar tab design, user adoption is incredibly sluggish.
Why is that?
The hurdle is the mechanics of routing liquidity. Unlike a simple bar tab, if you want to pay a merchant you don't have a direct channel with, the network has to route your payment through a web of interconnected users.
Like a daisy chain.
Exactly. If any hop along that path lacks sufficient liquidity to cover your transaction amount, the payment just fails. Channel management requires a level of technical oversight that the average user simply will not tolerate. The friction is too high.
And the sources literally quote detractors joking that widespread Lightning Network adoption is lightning years away.
Which is a harsh but telling critique of where the tech currently stands.
Which brings us to a really fascinating divergence in our sources. While retail users are wrestling with clunky DeFi interfaces and developers are struggling with slow layer 2 adoption, massive institutional entities and sovereign wealth funds aren't waiting for the user experience to get better.
No, they're playing a completely different game.
They are quietly, aggressively building out foundational infrastructure on a scale that is hard to comprehend.
We are seeing a distinct shift from retail speculation to sovereign and institutional fortification. Let's examine the actions of the Ethereum Foundation, as outlined in the data. They recently staked over $46 million worth of their own native token, ETH.
46 million.
This represents the largest single staking action the foundation has ever executed.
To understand why that matters, we need to look at what staking actually does. In a proof-of-stake network like Ethereum, staking isn't just, depositing money into a savings account to earn a yield.
No, bad at all.
Staking your tokens is the mechanism that physically secures the network. You are locking up your capital as collateral to validate transactions and protect the ledger from malicious attacks. By staking $46 million, the foundation isn't just looking for a return, they are reinforcing the bedrock of the entire ecosystem.
And the sources detail their June 2025 Treasury policy, which explicitly confirms this. This maneuver is the execution of a highly deliberate, long-term defensive strategy.
They are utilizing their treasury to fund what they explicitly refer to as their cypherpunk goals.
Their stated priorities are ensuring financial self-sovereignty, proliferating open-source code that cannot be monopolized by corporate entities, and developing strict anti-surveillance privacy tools to protect market participants globally.
Anti-surveillance privacy to protect market participants. That phrasing is striking. It frames the foundation less as a technology development group and more as a digital defense organization.
That's a very accurate reading of their posture. And to execute that mandate, the sources note they have an intense, almost obsessive focus on security auditing. They are aggressively funding battle-tested protocols to prevent catastrophic smart contract failures.
Because the stakes are existential, a single logical flaw in a widely used smart contract can result in billions of dollars evaporating in seconds.
The foundation is using its immense capital weight to actively fortify the walls of the decentralized economy.
But if you want to talk about institutional entities actively fortifying the future, we have to pivot our focus geographically to the Middle East.
Absolutely.
Because while the U.S. is drafting legislation to keep compute hardware stateside, the Middle East is aggressively, visibly pivoting to artificial intelligence at a scale that is entirely redefining enterprise architecture.
The region is intentionally transforming its economic identity. They are shifting from being primarily a consumer of global technology to becoming an exporter of foundational AI infrastructure.
Look at the announcement coming out of the FII Priority Miami Summit. The partnership detailed in the sources pairs UAN, a massive organization based in Saudi Arabia, with a US-based technology company called Turing.
And the achievement they unveiled is a genuine paradigm shift in how corporations will operate. They are launching the world's first enterprise AI marketplace platform specifically designed for agents.
And this entire ecosystem is being built on a proprietary infrastructure system they call Humane One.
The stated operational goal is to completely automate complex human resources, finance, and legal workflows.
The phrase AI agents is thrown around constantly as a buzzword right now. But what does an autonomous agentic workflow actually look like in practice? If I am a human HR manager or a legal clerk, what is this system fundamentally changing about my daily operations?
It represents a fundamental shift in the architecture of software itself. Traditional enterprise software is passive. It waits for a human to input data, analyze it, and click a button to proceed to the next step.
Right.
An autonomous agentic workflow means the AI system executes complex, multi-step, logic-based tasks independently over time.
So, if an employee submits a complex expense report involving international travel and varying tax jurisdictions,
A traditional system simply routes the PDF to an accountant's inbox. An autonomous agent, however, actively reads the corporate travel policy, cross-references the submitted receipts against database pricing for anomalies, calculates the specific tax implications for those jurisdictions.
Whoa.
It automatically emails the employee if a specific receipt is illegible, and only after resolving all discrepancies, drafts the final approval for the human manager to authorize.
Right.
It executes the entire administrative process autonomously, requiring human oversight only at the final strategic approval stage.
The philosophy being that it isn't replacing human ingenuity. It is supposedly amplifying it by entirely removing the burden of administrative drudgery. The human worker becomes an editor and an approver rather than a data entry clerk.
That is the architectural promise of the Humane One infrastructure. But the business dynamic of this partnership is what is truly noteworthy. Turing, the US-based technology company, is acting as UAN's very first US-based customer.
Oh, wow. That completely flips the traditional script of technological development.
Yes, it establishes Saudi Arabia not just as a wealthy client buying American tech, but as a global AI innovation exporter, actively setting the enterprise standards for AI governance and workflow safety.
And Saudi Arabia isn't acting alone in this regional push. Look at what is happening in the United Arab Emirates. The sources detail a major operational move by First Abu Dhabi Bank. They are aggressively teaming up with Preysight and Microsoft.
The significance here lies in the maturity of the deployment. This is no longer an experimental sandbox or an isolated pilot program testing theoretical AI capabilities.
Right. Following a major collaborative one-day event with these global tech partners to align their architectures, first, Abu Dhabi Bank is moving artificial intelligence directly into the core of their daily banking operations.
They are embedding it across all business units for real-world tangible impact. They are integrating these models into their risk assessment engines, their loan approval workflows, their fraud detection networks.
They aren't just talking about the theoretical future of finance, they are running the current physical financial system on it right now.
So, when we take a step back and synthesize all of these disparate data points from the sources, what is the cohesive picture we are actually looking at?
We are witnessing a desperate global scramble to control the foundational infrastructure of the next decade.
Precisely. We see the raw mechanics of it everywhere. We see Bitcoin miners crushed by a broken economic model, physically ripping out their hardware to pivot to AI just to economically survive the current market dread.
We see U.S. politicians hurriedly drafting laws leveraging energy grids to ensure that specific compute hardware remains stateside as a matter of urgent national security.
We see Jack Dorsey's Square building complex conversion layers to hide the unbearable friction of crypto behind seamless apps so local merchants can actually use the technology without risk.
And we see sovereign wealth in the Middle East completely redefining the global enterprise software stack through autonomous agentic workflows. It is a single, interconnected web.
It really is.
And bringing it all back to you, the listener, trying to make sense of this whiplash. Why does a repurposed server farm in Kazakhstan, or a piece of tax legislation in Washington, or an autonomous HR agent in Abu Dhabi matter to your daily life?
It matters deeply.
Because whether you are paying for your morning coffee, managing a team of employees, or looking at how your 401k is structured, these behind-the-scenes infrastructure wars are actively building the financial and technological reality you will be forced to navigate over the next 5 years.
The raw compute power, the regulatory frameworks, the automated systems, they are laying the tracks right in front of the train we are all currently riding on.
Which leaves us with a final unmentioned question that the data forces us to ponder regarding the stability of these new tracks.
And this is a big one. We noted earlier that those massive Bitcoin miners who are currently renting their servers out to tech companies to train AI models will likely abandon their long-term AI contracts and switch their hardware back to crypto mining the moment the Bitcoin price recovers sufficiently to make it profitable again.
Because at the end of the day, industrial operators chase the most profitable margin regardless of the industry.
Exactly. But play out the macro consequences of that reversal. What happens to the global enterprise AI networks, like those massive autonomous systems running Saudi Arabia's enterprise marketplaces, or the core risk models of the first Abu Dhabi bank, when a massive chunk of their rented foundational computing power suddenly unplugs from the AI grid to go mine Bitcoin again?
The infrastructure supporting those autonomous workflows would instantly bottleneck.
Are we about to see a literal global bidding war for electricity and physical servers between the decentralized financial system of the future and the artificial intelligence of the future?
The map of global infrastructure is definitely not clean, and it is definitely not finished. The lines are blurred, the systems are mutating, and the foundation running our world is entirely up for grabs. Keep questioning the systems beneath the surface. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.